Welcome to Undo, the podcast where we rethink work, rest, and play. I'm Dulcie.
And I'm Yemisi. Hi.
And we are here to have the conversations that don't happen enough about ambition, identity, rest, joy, and doing life on your terms. So if you are done shrinking, settling, or running on fumes, you're in the right place. So today we're going to talk about self-knowledge. We're going to talk about self-awareness.
Yes.
You know, when people talk about growth, you normally hear things like, what skills have you acquired? What's your title? When were you last promoted? What's your visibility like? Ugh. But something that really doesn't get talked about enough, which I believe is the foundation for everything else, is knowing yourself.
Girl.
Right? So that is why today we're going to be talking about self-awareness and why it's one of the most underrated skills that you can have, but not just in your career, but truly in your entire life.
Yes.
Because all this stuff, that we search for externally, real talk, clarity, alignment, confidence, they don't come from those external things. They start inside you.
Yes.
So yeah, today is all about self-awareness.
Let's go.
So I've pretty much made my point, right? We talk a lot about like performance and striving for the next milestone and making progress in heavily inverted commas. And we don't really ever talk about self-awareness. I think self-awareness really gets talked about in a derogatory fashion about what people don't have. He lacks self-awareness, right? We've all said it. We all have. But actually, self-reflection and spending that time is seen as a bit of a luxury or an indulgence rather than a much-needed strategy.
Yeah, I think there's been times where self-awareness has been conflated with self-absorption or self-preoccupation. I think there's a tendency for people to take it to the other extreme. And I think that relationship between self-reflection, self-awareness has somehow been twisted into this kind of self-obsession or self-absorption. And they're two separate things completely.
That's a fantastic point. And I think that is so true, right? Of the difference between the two things. And we're really not talking about self-obsession and self-centering and all that sort of stuff. Even the word self sometimes seems like it's a dirty word.
It gets a bad rap.
Right. And it's like, why? Because I'm here. This is me. And I need to be aware of myself. Not the self that I'm sometimes trying to project or the self that comes from the expectations of people, parents, teachers, friends, colleagues, whatever. Who are you for real? And
I think some of that has, you mentioned, you don't know why self became such a dirty word. And some of it has to do with religion, honestly. I honestly think religion has a part to play. And let's take Christianity, for example, right? One day I was having a discussion with my mom and she mentioned that, God said, love others as yourself. He didn't say love others more than yourself.
No.
Or love others over yourself as yourself, which implies that you need to love yourself first.
Yeah.
In order to be able to love others. It starts with us.
Yeah. I think that's such an interesting point because organized religion, whether you subscribe to a religion or not, you are affected by organized religion.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the foundation of most legal systems around the world. Right? So you can't escape it one way or another.
Cannot.
And no matter which, I think with the exception of Satanism, every single religion, philosophy, moral system has the golden rule at the heart of it, which is treat others as you would like to be treated. So whatever you belong to, religion or no religion, just by law, that rule exists. And I think with Satanism, it's something that's a bit more like do whatever the fuck you want. I can't remember. There is a specific phrase that Alan Crowley used to say, and I can't quite remember it now. But every other sort of religion and philosophy goes with treat others as you would like to be treated. And I think that is such an interesting point you've made about, so if you're going to do that, it would suggest that you need to treat yourself well to start with.
And how can you treat yourself well if you don't know yourself?
If you don't know yourself, what are you doing, right? So I think that is such an interesting thing that we've all been raised in it somehow, one way or another. We've all been raised in it, but very few of us live it. Because there is this real, again, from religious practices and how they've infiltrated every part of social strata is, you know, self-sacrifice and martyrdom, and even the word selfish is inherently bad, although I will always argue that it's not bad to be selfish, not all the time anyway.
It's not black and white, right?
No, like that
the world
word
is not black and white.
I feel like that is a neutral word.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's such an interesting point around, if we are to treat others as we treat ourselves, we should treat ourselves well. And to treat yourself well, you ought to bloody know yourself. So we keep coming back to the self. And listen, you're born alone, you'll die alone. No matter what you go through in your life, partnering, marriage, children, blah, 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 you are always going to be with you. So I think it's a far better life to know and like who you are rather than try and avoid yourself. And I think a lot of us spend a lot of time trying to avoid ourselves. And I say that when we are trying to live up to an image that isn't truly us, when we are striving and we feel this internal friction and strife because we're trying to be something we're not. And this doesn't mean you cannot aim for, again, inverted commas, better, and you cannot improve. No, improvement, this is not an antithesis to self-improvement at all. In fact, it's a true path towards it.
Yeah, and it is, because before you can improve, you need to know what you're working with.
Right. And this is not about emulating somebody else. This is not about for me anyway, this self-awareness piece isn't about reinvention. It's about coming to an understanding, an acceptance and a love for who you truly are. And trying to slowly but surely shed the things that don't fit you, that don't suit you, that have been imposed by others or imposed by your former self. You know, the stuff that isn't you. It's a radical action. It is not an overnight thing. It's a journey, but I think it's one that is well worth doing for us to lead fulfilled and happy lives. And, you know, this season we've talked a lot about this kind of like, what is success, and what this is, I think. And actually, anyone who did listen to last week, you'll have heard us when at the end of the episode we talked we're going to talk about, you know, being lazy, being tired, and you're probably listening to this now and wondering, she told me to bring my lazy ass here, and now I'm hearing about self-awareness. The reason being that actually looking back at a lot of what we've talked about this season and in season 1, it felt really important to shift things into this self-awareness piece. Because actually, it's really hard to do a lot of the stuff we talk about without a true, honest understanding of who you really are. So we've decided to pivot slightly and talk about ourselves.
One more thing I want to say, to know about yourself, you need to spend time with yourself. And to spend time with yourself, you're going to have to make time. So that's one thing I discovered at my middle age point, was that I can't keep deferring my prioritization of me time. So I had a bit of a midlife crisis, but I also had some midlife clarity as well. So
I like that. Midlife clarity.
I both.
Like that.
And the artist way was a big part of it. And not a lot of people really talk about how there's an inner strength, an inner power, inner wisdom within you that you can tap into. But she not only talks about that, but she also gives you the tool by which to do that, which is morning pages. And so since October last year, I've been writing morning pages every morning. And that is my mandated time with myself. And that has been such a game changer for me, Dulcie. I cannot tell you. Like, find a time. making the time to spend time with you and your thoughts and your feelings is really, really helpful, and therapy. But yeah, we know that already.
Yeah, I mean, it's a given at this point. And the eternal caveat: get a therapist. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. And yeah, you need time. You know, it feels obvious, but actually, it's really important to call that out because. You know, when I was saying about like avoiding yourself, that is part of self-avoidance, is not spending time with yourself.
Yes. And they're usually legitimate reasons. If you're a carer, a caregiver, full-time, like there's a lot of life's pressures that can edge out that time for yourself.
But in the same way that when we don't make time for our friends or family members, right, we can't then wonder why the relationship is faltering.
I see where you're going. Yes.
Yeah. So we can't say, oh, we've drifted apart. Yeah, well, I haven't seen you in 4 years. So if I don't spend time myself, I'm surprised that I'm drifting away from the things that matter to me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Precisely. Love it.
Okay, so the problem with I'm going to step into my negative bag.
Oh, let's go.
That's where I feel really comfortable.
I'm here to catch you.
I
won't let you slide too far down.
I'm going to drag you down with me.
Because I need us to get out of it by the end of this episode.
I honestly, I just started I've got my my heated blanket on my legs. I started to just rub it. I started to feel really cozy. I was like, oh yeah. Sniffing this thing on like a beautiful silk negligee. Negativity.
You know, we're like Glinda and Elphaba. That's
I haven't seen it, but I think I get the gist.
Please watch it. Two best friends, more or less, and one is this evil witch, and the other one is a super positive. So that kind of reminds me. One is the realist, and the other one is the eternal optimist.
Yes, that is us. So, the problem then with not being self-aware is that when you have spent too much time away from yourself, you can find yourself building a life that looks good on paper, but something feels off. And sometimes it's hard to quite pin it, right? And we have those feelings of like, I'm not okay. Something isn't right. I don't want to do this. But you can't say why, because everything looks good.
Exactly.
But something doesn't feel
everyone
right.
is telling you, and the world, society is telling you that you are living a charmed life, but it doesn't feel like it inside.
Right. Without self-awareness, we default to behaviours like perfectionism, performative behaviours, people-pleasing, and other things that start with P. I just realised, I was like, this alliteration, all my plosives, and the microphone. You like that one?
I do. I'm gonna need a minute.
Oh, God. Okay. And another thing, if we aren't self-aware, it's really easy to end up in jobs, in relationships, or even in just daily rhythms that do not serve us. Right? You see, it's a lack of self-awareness, a lack of self-knowledge is also it's like a way of losing control and direction.
Yeah.
Right? So without
no one's in the driving seat. Or actually somebody else is in the driving seat and it's not
everyone else is in the driving seat.
Yeah.
Picking you up and dropping you off wherever they want. So without clarity on your values, your triggers, your energy, you end up being reactive rather than intentional. Okay? So I'm going to ask everyone,
my pearls a little bit.
clutch your pearls, honestly. So I'm going to just get changed. I'm going to slip out of my negativity negligee, and I'm going to slip on my ancient Egyptian lab coat. Because I'm back, Dr. Dulcie Darkside, with research and insight.
Welcome back, Dr. Dulcie Darkside.
Thank you so much. So, in the Harvard Business Review, it's always a Harvard Business Review with me. Sorry, guys, I paid for a subscription, getting the most out of it. But they had an article there which it showed that people who are self-aware are more effective, more fulfilled, and they're better at navigating relationships. No shit, Sherlock. I think that is, obvious, right? But, in a study by Dr. Tasha Eurich, remember that name because more to come with Dr. Tasha.
Okay.
She found that while 95% of people believe they're self-aware, only 10 to 15% of people actually are.
Squeeze me.
95% of people believe they're self-aware. Only 10 to 15% actually are.
So most of us are basically delusional, is what this
Completely delulu.
Delulu.
Delulu, baby. Okay.
This is hilarious.
Right. But she didn't just leave us hanging. She wasn't.
Okay.
She was like, "Let me provoke you," which I love.
Dropped the grenade and ran.
Right. She didn't run. She actually came back to clear up the limbs and mop up the blood. She explained why is there such a gap.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she said it's because we confuse introspection with overthinking. I said, "Bitch." Right. Listen. When I tell you Dr. Tasha is the HBIC when it comes to this stuff. She really is.
My edges are falling off. Hold on.
Listen, there's more to come. She also says that we rely on personality labels and then call it a day. So why don't you just slap me next time? Oh my God. She's like, because everyone knows they're Myers-Briggs, but do you even know yourself? INT what? ENF who?
What?
I said, this woman is a demon and I love her.
You know it's true, Everyone
Right?
knows the Myers-Briggs.
Like, everybody knows their Myers-Briggs. People know their Enneagram, their this, their that. Do you know yourself?
Oh my Lord.
And when I tell you, like, and I always say I'm going to put a link to an article, and I never do. But I will actually try and put this link in because
What personality label is that?
Right. So she says that self-awareness is not just knowing your type, it's knowing your values. It's knowing your emotional patterns. It's knowing what energizes or drains you. It's knowing what you need in the current season of your life. And you don't build a life that works, that fits by guessing or copying somebody else.
You notice Dulcie said the current season of your life.
Oh, yes.
Life is seasonal. What you may have wanted 3 months ago may not necessarily be what you want now.
Yeah.
And always making time for yourself will help you to realize that sooner rather than later. Just FYI.
Absolutely. So you build the life that you really desire. You build it by asking yourself things like, who am I? What do I care about? And what would it look like for me to honor that?
And if you can't think about what you like or what you care about, start with a list of what you don't like and what you don't care about. Yeah.
So even within those things that frustrate you, aggravate you, irritate you is normally an indicator of a value that's being violated. So there are lots of different angles with which to understand yourself, right? It doesn't all come from positivity because you are not a positive being. You are a neutral being who experiences both positive and negative.
Preach.
So all the ways in which you react to things are clues as to who you are. So next up we have living proof. Yeah. Okay, so Living proof this week is a chap called Mo Gawdat. Now, I first came across him when he was on Elizabeth Day's podcast, How to Fail, which is one of my absolute favourite podcasts in the world. I think, wow, she is an interviewer extraordinaire. So if you want to, I would recommend his book, which I will be doing later in the episode. But if you want just a really quick insight into the man, listen to that episode. It's really moving, really touching, and it's hard not to just love this guy. So Mo Gawdat was an exec at Google, in early days Google, big guy, right? Top executive. Many people would have said that he had the dream job, the money, the status, the prestige, right? And unfortunately, things changed for him when his son passed away unexpectedly. His son Ali died, and that caused him to question everything he thought he knew about success, meaning, and happiness. Now, this is an engineer. This is a man of science. So, of course, in trying to deal with his grief and answer these questions he was now having about what am I doing? What is the point of everything? He did lots of research. And he couldn't find this clarity that he was looking for in formulas for success or books about strategy. He actually found it in deep reflection.
Of course.
He found it in the depths of his grief. He found it by slowing down and asking, what kind of life do I actually want? And since that point, he has walked away from that, incredible Silicon Valley career, and he's now devoting his life to emotional intelligence, awareness, and helping people do what he calls solve for happy. Yes. So he says, and I quote, happiness is a choice, but you can't make it unless you understand yourself first.
I love this man already.
Yeah. So his story reminds us then that self-awareness isn't just a sort of self-help buzzword.
No, absolutely not.
It's how we rebuild when life falls apart. And it's how we make better choices before we ever even get to that point.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I think just think about, inspired by Mo, just think about how self-awareness can give you focus. It can help you build boundaries. It can just give you the right language when you want to communicate effectively with the people around you. It helps you show up more fully in work, in your relationships, pretty much your entire life. And it's not a thing that you just find out in the wilderness somewhere. It's something you uncover, but you keep building season after season of your beautiful, wonderful life. So, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mo Gawdat.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for Undo. So, if you are ready to reconnect with who you are, and this is going beyond job titles, beyond people pleasing, beyond all that external noise, here is your undo.
Let's go.
So, we're going to ask you to unlearn a few things. The first is unlearn that following the traditional roadmap will eventually lead you to clarity. Unlearn the external validation, like the praise you receive, how many promotions you've had, how many likes a post gets. Unlearn that is a compass of any kind. Right? It's not. Okay?
Yes,
it doesn't really mean
not.
anything. And unlearn that personality types or quiz results are enough to really know yourself. I find this one so funny because I really love that shit.
Honestly.
Like, and I found some of them that are really like accurate. You're like, yeah, okay, but it's not me.
You know, it really is.
Aspects of me, but it's not actually me.
Yeah.
Also, because some of them, when I read them, it's always like, oh, this person's really difficult and quite dark-sided. Oh, hold on. It is me.
That's me.
Oh. So if you want to reflect on all of those points, then you can ask yourself, what have I been doing because I should, not because I want to? Where might I be dimming or deflecting instead of listening to myself? Even that thing, like, Yemi, what you said earlier on about making time. Where am I not making time for myself? Where am I running from myself? What have I outgrown? Because
That's
again,
a
remember the
good
seasons.
one.
Yeah, we change, we
That's a
evolve.
good one.
So what have I outgrown, and what would feel more like me at this point? So don't forget, you're allowed to change.
You are so allowed. Don't let all these cancel culture people like get you in a twist, because I think there's a tendency of, if you're one thing, you're not allowed to be anything else. You're not allowed to change your mind. You're not allowed to be. You have to be that one thing forever. And
Who says? And also, like, with the whole cancel culture thing, like, no offense, but like, who are you? No one's going to cancel you. Nobody knows who you are. Live your life.
Live your life.
And so with the do something new, start treating self-awareness like it's a core life skill. Okay? And when I say that, I mean, do a values check-in. Like, what matters to me right now? Spend some time journaling. What do I want to be true about my life 6 months from now?
Do you know what really helped me, Dulcie? It was that your best year challenge that you.
Oh,
yeah, that.
Okay.
So so I've been through a lot of challenges. I think yours was the first one that I really talked about, that I saw really call out the importance of putting your values front and center before everything else. And
that's a very sexy segue.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'll pay you later, honey.
So I have to give, kudos to you, bitch.
Thank you.
Because that really helped me. So now, like, this year, I've always, like, every time I do my kind of regular reflections, my monthly reflections, my values are always at the front and center of every reflection now, because it's like, okay, these are the values I said. Is that still true now? And if it's still true now, are my goals and my actions aligned with those things?
Yeah, that's really good to know, and I'll put a pin in it for a second, because there is something coming. Okay. But yeah, just a final little bit of encouragement there is that knowing yourself isn't self-indulgent, it's powerful. And knowing yourself is at the beginning of every single good decision that you could possibly make.
Yes,
okay?
It's necessary. It is required. It's not required. Optional.
Exactly. So just a really quick one, and we will slide into an ad in a second, which will give you a bit more information. But so Yemi just mentioned a challenge that we did in Workwell at the beginning of the year called Your Best Year Yet. And it was, a lot in it really about unpacking the year just gone, who you are, what your values are, and the year to come. And I was just so conscious. It's part of why bringing this episode to this point as well, as we move towards the midpoint of the year, I was very conscious that we start the year with the best intentions, right? Whether or not we have resolutions, but we all on some level are thinking, okay, this year is going to be different. It's going to be better. It's going to be something. And then the weeks and the months start to pass, and the tide comes in and washes you out with it, and washes you in, and things happen and life happens.
And sand gets everywhere.
Sand gets right up your butt crack. And it just, you really need to wash it out. So I built something called the Truth of You Challenge. And it's a midpoint check-in. It's quite light. It's just emails. But it's some prompts to really work on self awareness and self knowledge. So I'll let the ad do the work, but it starts on the 30th of June. It's free. There's nothing you need to do other than read an email a day for a week. That is it. But by the end of the week, I promise you will know yourself far more than you do right now. So I'll let the ad tell us a bit more about it. Let's take a quick pause. If you've been feeling a little disconnected lately, or like you've lost sight of who you are beneath all the roles, responsibilities, and noise, this is for you. The Truth of You is a free 7-day self-discovery challenge to help you come back to yourself. Through short daily prompts, you'll explore your values, your patterns, your strengths, and reconnect with the parts of you that might have gone quiet. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about finally seeing yourself clearly, compassionately, and truthfully. The challenge is totally free, and you can sign up now at thisisworkwell.com/truth of you, or by tapping the link in the show notes. All right, back to the episode, and maybe back to yourself too. So if you want to explore this topic a bit more, I do have some good recommendations of books that could be really helpful if you want to deepen this journey. And it is a journey. So, I said to remember the name Dr. Tasha Eurich. It's because there are some foundational texts, honestly. Play by Stuart Brown, Sacred Rest by Sandra Dalton-Smith. And here's another one for me, Insight by Tasha Eurich. And so she's the one that wrote that Harvard Business Review article I mentioned earlier, and she has a book called Insight, and it is a really practical roadmap on how to build self-awareness. And that's all. I just can't even describe it any more than that. It is exactly what it says it is, and it's really, really bloody good. So I heavily recommend that. A couple of other books. Mr. Mo Gawdat, I've already talked about him. I really love him, and his book Soul for Happy is just really moving. It's really thoughtful, and Yemi and I are both scientists, or we have the minds of scientists, the hearts of artists. But if you, like us, are really logical thinkers, this is a self-help-esque book that really appeals to that logic. It doesn't meander. It makes sense. I think is the way I can say it. So for anyone that struggles with your average self-help book, this is one I think that actually will be very satisfying from a former Google engineer. And then the final one, slightly different, but I thought it was just a really good book by one of my favourite actresses, Viola Davis. And it's her memoir called Finding Me. And I recommended this one here just because it's not, it's not a roadmap or whatever, but it's just a really good account of how she reclaimed her own identity, her own voice, and her own truth.
Look,
and it's really
you
good.
had me at Viola Davis.
Listen, right?
Because that lady.
With all of these things that we talk about, that's why we started doing Living Proof this season, is it's always good to have someone who's done it.
Yeah.
And to understand that journey, not in order to follow what they've done, because everyone has their own path to take, but just to be assured that it can be done, and what's waiting at the other end of that is well worth the effort it takes. So you will find all of those books and more in the library on the Workwell website. All the links are in the show notes. I think it's time for us to wrap up, right?
Let's wrap it up.
If this episode gave you something to reflect on, we hope that you stay curious and kind with yourself. And if someone in your life is searching for clarity, then please do share this with them.
Yes, and if you've got a few seconds, a 5-star rating or a quick review really helps us reach more people.
This season, we're also doing short minisodes in which we unpack real dilemmas from listeners. So if there's something you're wrestling with, whether at home or at work, send your email to dilemma@thisisworkwell.com, and don't worry, we'll make sure you stay anonymous.
Would you like to keep up with us online? You'll find all the links in the show notes.
Next time, we are talking about creativity, and I promise we will actually talk about creativity.
Bait and switch.
Right. We'll talk about the fact that you're not uncreative, you're just a bit out of practice, okay? All right. So we'll see you then. Bye.